Welcome back to The Real Story. The rift inside the Democratic Party may be going beyond the presidential primary. The head of the Democratic National Committee, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is facing a primary challenge for her seat in a big way. Her challenger has been endorsed by Senator Bernie Sanders. Listen to this.
Clearly, I favor her opponent. His views are much closer to mine than Wasserman Schultz's. And let me also say this, in all due respect to the current chairperson, if elected president, she would not be reappointed to be chair of the DNC.
Well, joining me now is Tim Canova, the man challenging Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Tim, great to have you on The Real Story. Why is Debbie Wasserman Schultz unfit to serve in your mind?
Well, I think she's been around for a while, and she's seen increasingly as a political insider who's not representing the interests of her constituents all that well.
So is it that she... Well, I just want to interrupt for a minute, because one of the things that Bernie Sanders is really upset about is that he feels like she has been behind this sort of establishment movement to favor Hillary Clinton. Would you agree with that?
Well, that's a hard one to say. You know, let me put it this way. When you look at her tenure as the head of the Democratic National Committee, one of the big decisions she made was to overturn President Obama's 2008 ban on corporate lobbyist donations to the DNC. And then we learned that 60 or 70 superdelegates are corporate lobbyists. And, you know, that's problematic. You wonder what the agenda is of superdelegates when they're not even elected representatives and they're not beholden to the American people, but they represent special interests.
The American people are scratching their heads right now, too, because Bernie Sanders keeps winning states, and yet he can't get the nomination because of these superdelegates. I want to read some of your tweets because I found them very interesting. Proud to have Bernie Sanders support. Together we are building a coalition that will unrig our political system. You sound like Donald Trump.
Well, I'll tell you, I think you see this in the electorate, that folks are really aggravated with incumbent politicians, and it's on the left and the right. You know, it's an entrenched incumbents. They've been kicking the can down the road for many years now, and they haven't been solving problems. And I see my campaign, we're drawing energy from all sides of the spectrum. It's not just Bernie Sanders supporters. Of course, Bernie Sanders supporters have been very generous to us, there's no doubt. But we're even getting support from people who have voted for Hillary Clinton and all across the spectrum.
Okay. Well, I know that your donations went up dramatically when Bernie Sanders gave you that endorsement. I want to talk a little bit more about Bernie Sanders to get your thoughts on this, because he said that the Democratic convention could get, well, messy. Listen to this.
We are bringing in a lot of new people into the political process, people who have never gone to a convention before, and they hope very much that their voices will be heard. It's going to be messy, you know. Democracy is not always nice and quiet and gentle. But that is where the Democratic Party should go.
Now, he went on to say that he will condemn any and all forms of violence, but what does he mean by messy?
Oh, I think he just means a lot of spirited debate. And recall 8 years ago when the Democrats had a contested election, a convention between President Obama and Hillary Clinton, it was a little bit messy. There's a lot of passionate people around these issues, and it's issues that have animated my campaign. You know, this economy has been stuck in neutral for a lot of people. We got to get a lot more jobs created. And this is a part of the message that's been resonating for me in South Florida. We've been talking about regulating Wall Street and critical of bad trade deals. And this has put me on the other side of these issues with my opponent.
All right. I know that you're a political newcomer. I mean, you've worked a little bit in politics, but you've never held office. Do you find it fascinating then in the head-to-head polls that Sanders actually beats Trump, but Trump beats Clinton the other way around?
Well, I really don't want to comment on polls at the national level. I'll tell you, you said I'm a political newcomer, and it's true, although I was a legislative aide on Capitol Hill in the 1980s for Paul Tsongas, a late U.S. Senator from Massachusetts. And all the way back in the 1980s, I was writing critically about deregulating Wall Street. So I've been devoting my entire life to trying to make this a better world, and to, as a law professor for 20 years, writing about the Federal Reserve and the financial markets. Well,
I'm sure that back in the 80s and 90s that people were still writing more thank you cards. You might want to send one to Bernie Sanders. He's
Well,
done your campaign a lot of good, sir. Tim Canova.
Well, it's true, but I'll tell you, Gretchen, even before Senator Sanders' endorsement, we raised $1 million, and our message was resonating.
All right, fantastic. Good to have you on The Real Story today. We'd love to have Debbie Wasserman on as well, Schultz, but she declines our invitations. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.